As a medic main, I wish there was a little more diversity of melee selection. It pains me to see a melee that just never gets used by serious players. Like, ever. The standard is to either use the Vita-Saw, the Amputator, or the Solemn Vow, with little change in playstyle other than employing an Amputator taunt now and then for AoE healing. The stock Bone Saw is great, according to 2012 Array 7, but not so much for today's Medic Masters. The difference here is that the Bone Saw isn't objectively bad. Like any stock weapon, it's, well, stock. It doesn't actively hinder you in any way. It's just not as good as the top three. But that discussion is for another day. Today, I want to focus on the medic melee that is objectively bad, the Vita-Saw. So let's discuss why the Vita-Saw is bad, and some possibilities of how to fix it. The Vita-Saw has only two stats. The first is that each melee hit collects an organ, which lets you keep 15% of your Uber upon death per organ collected, up to a maximum of 60%. The second stat is that it penalizes the wearer with minus 10 max health. To understand why this is absolute dog poop, let's start by looking at the old Vita-Saw. Prior to Jungle Inferno, the health penalty was still there, but there was no organ collecting system. It capped off, allowing you to maintain up to 20% Uber charge upon death. The difference being this was an entirely passive ability. You didn't have to hit anyone. The weapon was intended to act as a safety net, and was actually somewhat viable, because it didn't require you to act like a maniac to use it. Which leads us to why the current Vita-Saw sucks. It encourages suicidal gaming. Let's be clear, to get the intended utility out of this weapon, you not only need to,
Well, died.
but before dying, you have to either charge an enemy like a weak German Demo Knight, or get flanked and connect a few swings on your attacker. So let's think about this. Best case scenario, let's say you have 60% Uber, and you find yourself in an unavoidable melee confrontation with the enemy, which you should seldom be. Would you rather connect 4 whole swings, that's right, 4 whole swings with the Vita-Saw, so that you preserve that full 60% Uber, and then die a horrible, painful death? Or connect 2 swings with the Uber Saw and pop to get the hell out of dodge? I don't know about you, but I'm going to go with option B every time. And by the way, if you're at 60% Uber, and you're all by yourself, where's your team? Anyways, how do we fix it? I asked you guys a few days ago for possible ways to make the Vita-Saw actually viable. Here are some of your responses. Jacob01 said, instead of collecting organs, make it so that when you hit a teammate, it removes negative effects, like marked for death, bleed, milk, Girardi, etc. Broody added to this idea to make it sort of like the Man Melter, reward you for extinguishing teammates with a little bit of Uber charge. I do like the idea, but it could get a little broken, spammy, especially if you've got a friendly pyro on the enemy team, but not bad. Ouija Gaming proposed making it more of a medic's version of the Islander. Maintain the hits, the melee hits, but the more organs you have, the faster your medigun heals, the more self-heal per second you receive, the more overheal you can do, etc. For the downsides, he proposed to receive whatever percent less healing from other medics, and a lower self-healing to start. This is pretty good, and could lead to some awesome plays, and I could see it snowballing pretty hard. Nicholas Rage went with a simpler route: give the wearer some sort of resistance, like the battalion's backup, or crit resistance. I really like this idea too, though blanket crit resistance is probably too good for one weapon to have. Instead, I would just give it a singular stat that, wearer is immune to headshots, like the old Darwin's Danger Shield. Maybe you could add the classic slower swing speed to that as a downside. Sir John Vidoc proposed for every organ collected, you can extend Uber duration for 3 to 4 seconds by right-clicking. This sounds like fun, but it could lead to some insane Uber chaining and might be a bit broken. Anyways, those were all good suggestions, but Here is what I propose. I'm a fan of utmost simplicity. Simplicity is what gives items like the Vita-Saw, Black Box, Back Burner, and Pain Train such longevity in the game. Those items are never going to have their stats changed, mark my words. So I want to maintain the intent of the weapon to be a safety net. There is definitely utility in that. So let's start by reverting back to the original Vita-Saw in that it provided the benefit passively. Good? Okay, from there, dump the -10 health penalty and increase the possible Uber retention to 25%. And that's it. There you have it. One singular stat. Up to 25% Uber retention upon death. Do not underestimate the power of retaining Uber. Believe it or not, the original Vita-Saw was actually banned from competitive prior to its most recent version. Alright, as always, let me know what you guys think and keep those heels fresh. Cheers.